Compost, full of beneficial microbes and nutrients. We just got to make some more. Would you like to improve the health and structure of your soil? Would you like for your soil to retain more moisture and nutrition? Would you like to have more beneficial microorganisms in your soil to reduce the need for pesticides and fertilizers? These garden benefits and much more can be obtained through compost. Hi, I'm Annette. I'm so grateful that you're here with me today, and I'm going to be going over 7 simple and easy steps to help you get started on your hot compost pile. Let's get started. Step 1 of 7 is your location. Take time to look around your property and make a decision where you think would be best to put your compost bin. It can be in the shade or the sun, it doesn't matter, either way will work. But it does need to be near a water source, and it does need to be in a convenient place throughout the year. Step 2 of 7 is to collect and gather all your browns and your greens, because in today's video we're going to be making a compost pile all at one time. So let's talk about collecting your carbons, which is your brown material. Leaves is very available in the fall time. That's a great time to be raking and storing your leaves in bags, and even picking up leaves on the curbside from other homes and helping you get more leaves to collect. Woody material, cardboard, and different materials such as this would be a good brown carbon source to use. Now let's talk about your greens, your nitrogen source. This is a little bit more tricky because vegetable scraps is one of them, and they're a lot more perishable. It's not like something we can just store outside. So maybe you have space in your freezer that you can put them, that would work. Or maybe you want to just do your vegetable scraps when it gets closer time to do your compost pile after you got all of your brown material collected. Coffee grounds is another good nitrogen source, which would be a green. Now that's something that we've been doing over the last few months, is just going by our local Starbucks store. We go and we pick them up, and then it's good to spread them out on a table, like an outdoor table, because they're wet when we pick them up, and you don't want to store them like that because they'll get moldy quite quickly. So we just spread them out on the table, let some air and sun get to them and dry them out, and then we can just put them all in a bucket or a bag until we have enough to make our compost pile, which it has to be at least a 3 foot high, 3 foot wide, and 3 foot deep. Step 3 of 7 is we're going to have to get our compost bin. We build one or we buy one. Now if you're going to buy one, there's many on the market, from barrels to tumblers, different shapes, different sizes, and I'm sure there's some good ones out there. But I'm just going to be making mine out of wire. You can make yours out of wire, out of wood, pallets, cinder blocks. There's a lot of different choices and options that we can have in building a compost bin. So what I did, I just went to Lowe's and we bought this gardening fencing here. We got it in a 50-foot roll, and we just cut a 10 feet piece off. And so what I would recommend is you have to have at least a 3 by 3 by 3. And so if you get it in a 10-foot length, that is going to be enough when you make your circle. And so you just cut it off at that length and kind of walk on it to get it to straighten out. Just make sure it doesn't spiral back on you. Now this right here is optional. You don't have to have this, and I'll tell you why I got this piece. So if you can come up a little bit closer here, I want to show you this piece here, this garden fencing here. This opening mesh here is a 2 by 3, and I was trying to find something smaller, but right now in our location they just did not have anything available that was smaller, so I had no choice but to get this, because even with this opening here, as the compost is decomposing, it's going to have some fallout here on the ground. So in order to help with that issue, we already had this chicken wire here on the property, and so I thought about using it on the inside or the out, just to make the holes a little bit smaller. So this chicken wire is very flexible, and so it's easy to work with. And the hose on this is 1-inch opening. Okay, so Paul, he's just going to take both of the pieces, and you can just kind of just blend them together. And matter of fact, the chicken wire is 4 feet tall, and so it gives us a foot just to fold over, so it will be able to just adhere to the garden fence. And when you cut your garden fence, you're going to leave some wire out horizontal as little pieces that you can just make it come together. Just bend those wires backwards and make them come together. So you just take that extra foot of the chicken wire and just fold it over. You might have to work with it a little bit to get it going the way you want to, but you'll get it. And so far we're not using anything to tie it together because that chicken wire is very flexible, and we're just getting it to fold over there just so it can stay. You just bring it together, and those horizontal wires are sticking out. You just feed it through there and just bend them backwards so the two can stay together. Okay, so now the chicken wire has been fixed with this garden fence, and you see it makes a circle. Now it took a little bit more effort in putting the chicken wire together with this garden fence, but I think it's going to be worth the extra effort, because now, as you can see, these 2x3 grids here, this opening mesh, is a lot smaller by putting the chicken wire here, so I'm not going to have the problem with my ingredients falling out so easily now. But step 4 of 7 is preparing your ingredients for your compost pile. Now I want to show you the ingredients I'm going to be using in this particular compost pile, and I have samples laid out here on the table. I've been collecting and gathering for a while, and so now I have enough to do my compost pile all at one time, one batch. So I have different greens. Some of this stuff was plant stuff from the garden. They're chopped up a little bit smaller. The smaller you chop things up, the quicker they're going to decompose and break down. And I want my compost pile as fast as I can get it, because if not, left to itself, it could take a lot longer if you just leave things in large chunks or pieces. All right, and so the second ingredient is going to be the coffee grounds, and so this is my second nitrogen source, along with the vegetable scraps. Also, earlier today we cut some grass. We still have a little bit of grass here, not a lot in December. And then on my carbon source, I'm only using one carbon source this time, which is my leaves. But we did get our push mower and run over them to make them even smaller, because leaves, I'm telling you, can take quite a while to decompose if you don't chop them up a little bit. Step 5 of 7 is putting our compost pile together. Now, there are 4 elements that goes into this. 1, our carbon sources, our browns. 2, our nitrogen sources, which is our greens. 3, water, because it has to have moisture. And then oxygen that we will be getting by turning the pile. So the first thing I'm going to do is just dump in a little bit of woody material. It's just small sticks around the yard. You can put as much as little as you want in here of that. It's just to help with the drainage and just gives a little bit more air circulation on the bottom. And then we want to put a carbon source in. Now I'm going to do about a half a bucket of coffee grounds. All right, so when we first start doing our compost pile, it's going to need a little bit more water than as time goes on. Because once we put vegetable scraps in there, a lot of vegetables have a lot of water content, and that's going to be adding water and moisture to the pile as well as it begins to be broken down by the microorganisms. Now I'm going to add another nitrogen source. It's the grass clippings. It's got a little bit of browns mixed in with it. And from here, I'm going to continue to layer it browns and greens in water, and I'll bring you back once we have it full to the top. All right, so we got the bin filled. It took approximately 30 5-gallon buckets of browns to 10 greens. So that would be a ratio approximately 3 to 1. So every 3 browns, 1 5-gallon bucket of greens. So now from here, we got it moistened down really good. I'm really glad we took the time to add the chicken wire to this garden fence, because we had very little spillage and it falling out. So that really helped a lot. So to me, the little extra effort putting that on there was worth it. Now, 2 more things to consider. One is a thermometer is necessary, because this is a hot compost pile, and about 3 days from now, we need to take the temperature. So I would recommend a 3 foot, 4 foot would be better, but a 3 foot would be suffice. The question would be, do you cover or do you not cover? Well, I'm going to choose to cover, because we have a lot of hot weather here in Florida. I would like to try to maintain my moisture level very consistently, and so by putting a tarp on here, it's going to help with the moisture level being retained. And and also if it rains, that's another thing too. If it rains, I don't want it to get just doused with water. So to try to manage all of that, I'm choosing to cover my compost bin. What I would recommend is, because you see how this right here kind of sinks in, and actually I could actually add a little bit more browns on top here, which I will do, just to try to bring it up a little bit. But you would need something, a pole or something, and just right off the top, you'll see what I'm talking about, because if it rains, I don't want it to puddle right there in the middle. So if you can get something to kind of make it come up in the middle here, like a teepee, that way the water and stuff will flow off a lot better. So another thing would be to secure this some way. I would either get clamps or even to put a bungee cord around it will work as well. Step 6 of 7 will be maintaining your compost pile. We're going to be coming back in a few days, looking at the temperatures. The temperatures needs to rise up, and it will start that over the next day or so. Now, we need to get it up to a minimum of 131 degrees Fahrenheit, because it is at that temperature that the pathogens begin to kill off and the weed seeds. And so from there, we're hoping to let it rise a little bit more as well. We'll be checking it to see if it needs a little bit more water added to it for moisture, and we'll go into that more as we get here. But we want it to be like a wrung out sponge. When you squeeze it, you should never have water dripping from your hand. And also maintaining your pile, we can go through troubleshooting if it begins to have an odor, or if it gets too wet, or different things that could come up with a compost pile, because it's never always perfect all the way through. Now that would be step 6 of 7, and that will take us through for a few weeks, right? Because we have to maintain this pile, checking the moisture level, checking the temperature, and also turning the pile as we go along here. And if you like this video, please take a moment to give me a thumbs up, hit the like button, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, so today is day 7 in this compost pile heating up, this thermal hot compost. We have our thermometer in the middle, right in the core, and it's running about 156 degrees Fahrenheit, which is great. So it's maintaining a good heat level. So it's been 2 days since we have turned the compost pile, and we're going to turn it again. All right, the first thing, just like last time, we got to remove the outer wire here. And so we already got it unlatched from behind, and it comes off quite easy. And we're going to just bring it over here and get it ready when we transfer it over. It's going to have to be relatched back together. Okay, so we have our cage put back together here, and we want to have it close by the pile so we don't have a long ways to transfer it over. So the first step after that, the first step is we got to get this top part off and put it on the ground there. We have a tarp there that we can put it on. And any that falls on the ground, we can just shovel it up in a minute. Take out the core, that's step 2, and the core has to be put along the perimeter inside here. So we got the core out. You can see it's steaming really good. I've been putting a little bit of water on it as I'm going along here on the places that's dry. Step 3 in turning your pail is taking the middle section here, and you're going to put it in the middle of this pail here because your core is on the perimeter. Okay. So that completes step 3 in getting that section and just evenly putting it on the top here. I've been moistening it as I go along. All right, step 4 is taking that hot top that we took off and put on the ground. I'm gonna come over here with the shovel. And now this goes on next. Now, step 5 is the remaining on the ground. That goes in on top now. We're gonna get working on that. Once again, I'm moistening it with water as I go along, and that way I want to make sure that it's very well hydrated without having too much water on it. We got the last part on. Looks really good. We're not really losing any mass volume, which is great at this point. And I'm gonna get the water hose, putting water on it as I'm going along here. It's looking really good. This is our second time in turning this hot compost pail. So important to keep it turned because in turning it, we are reintroducing more airflow to the pail, which will help keep it aerobic. Not at any point do we want this pail to go anaerobic. Without oxygen, aerobic means with oxygen. So now at this point, we're gonna put the tarp back on and finish it up. I'm gonna put this bucket on here first to kind of lift it up so when it rains, it doesn't puddle in the middle here. Now we're gonna put the tarp on and then tie it down with these bungee cords. It has rained since we have made this compost pail, and I'm glad that we had the tarp on. It is time to give you an update on these compost pails. I have 2 compost pails here that I started pretty much close together at the same time. And as you can see over here to my right, one of these pails we have already been using in the garden, and it is almost more than half gone already. And this one here is ready to use as well. So I'm gonna bring you up close so you can see what I'm talking about on the finished compost. I started this compost December of last year, around the middle of the month. This is now March. This is a hot compost pail. And so it took approximately 3 months from start to finish on this compost pail here. Now, I was faithful to come out here and to turn the pail and to put water on it to make sure it had moisture. And also there was times where I had to feed it a little bit more nitrogen because it was cooling down too much. So as you can see here, it is now ready to go and it looks great. If you have found value in this video, please take a moment to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And I will see you in the next video.